Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles officially releases next week. That means this week we have pre-release events. So if you're getting ready to go to one at your local game store, here's some tips and tricks to build your pre-release kits. First things first, get your packs out of the box, and we're going to organize them by color. It means we're just going to crack the packs, put them in piles, not really look at them until the next part. And the reason why I do that is because it just allows you to see what you have access to. When I do this, I break everything up into 6 piles. You got your 5 colors here, colorless pile for artifacts or any colorless creatures you might get, lands, and then multicolored creatures. When you break these up, it gives you the opportunity to see visually the number of cards got inside of each pile, right? So you are able to instantly say, man, I got a lot of green cards. So going in the green direction is going to be far, far easier for me than going in, let's say, red down here, which appears to be the lowest card count. That way you don't waste too much time trying to cipher through what you have and you don't have and going down a direction that just doesn't end up working. Now, when it comes to picking the piles, I do a couple things. First, I check the sides of each pile, and then I like to look at what we have in the multicolored section. Because if we have a lot of cards that are leaning towards a very specific color or pairing, it's going to make building those far easier and honestly just far more synergistic. And right now, it's looking off the bat, it looks like Simic is going to be the goal to build around. Just looking at, we got 4 directly related Simic cards. On top of that, we have a few hybrid colors right here that we can just put in as blue to cast. So I think the first thing we're going to try and take a look at is going to be the 2 green files. Now, adjust that based on the number of cards that you have, take a look at what you see, and then just venture down those paths. On top of that, there are some built-in themes that are already inside of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's going to be your red-white theme, which is a alliance strategy. So alliance coming in, something happens for a creature entering, I believe. We'll pop a alliance card up here. Then you have your black and white strategies, which is going to be like sneak mechanics, ninjas, and stuff like that. Blue red is going to be artifacts. So for affinity cards or just artifact cards in general, there's a decent number inside of the set. Then green and blue, which is what we're going to be looking at today, probably is going to be like mutagen and +1/+1 counters. And then finally, black green is going to be kind of disappear and food tokens. So the food tokens kind of relate to the disappear trigger. So those are the 5 that are pre-built inside of this set. So keep a lookout for those and check out for synergies. But for now, we're going to start off with by looking at our Simic colors. So since we looked at our multicolored creatures already, we're going to check for duplicates, because duplicates are going to be the biggest thing when it comes to building a deck inside of Sealed. Consistency really, really matters. And right now, it doesn't look like we have any duplicates across the Simic section. However, they're still pretty solid cards. So put them down here for now. Next, we'll pick up our green decks, and we're going to look for duplicates inside of here, and then go down from there. So we have a couple with Primordial Pachyderm. It's going to be 4 mana, 4/4. Enters, you gain 2 life, reach trample. It's a pretty generic, solid green card. Guac and Pizza, or I would say Guac Marshmallow Pizza. That sounds absolutely amazing. However, I will say, looking at this, it has flash, 1 mana, +2/+2 on tap it, so it's a nice food. Plus, it's a buff for combat tricks, so that might be somewhere in our realm, especially inside of Simic, or if you go into your putrid decks, or not putrid, disappear decks with your black green, because you have the food synergies. More duplicates. We got quite a few, it looks like. Westwind Avatar is going to be another one. Rocksteady Crash Courser. With a lot of top end, it looks like. That looks like it. That looks like it. Okay, so the non-matchmakers will be over here, but for now, honestly, our green spells look like serious top-end stuff. So we'll probably play maybe a pair of these when it comes to the end, unfortunately. So we'll set these off to the side for right now. Um, and then let's take a look at what we have that doesn't really match inside of the deck. So we're going to look for +1/+1 strategies to keep consistent. Leatherhead doesn't look like much. Frog Butler has an advantage of a 1/1 Death Toucher that gives us mana, so a little bit of acceleration will be nice. New Generations Technique, search for 2 lands. Not really what we want to see. Courier here looks for food cards, so we could run that with our, what are they? Guac and Marshmallow, if we want to be able to search those up for an in-hand combat trick. That's a possibility. Cowabunga, look at the top 4 cards, look for ninjas, mutants, and turtles, or a land card among them, put them in your hand, put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. 1 mana, top 4. It's pretty decent for some trick. Michelangelo's Technique, we're also looking at the top 8 with that one. Okay, here we go. Michelangelo's Game Master. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent left the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So that is a +1/+1 counter strat or synergy right there. Plus, it'll go synergizing with our walk and then mutagen tokens potentially. +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, hexproof. So this will be another combat trick. This enters, you create a mutagen token, which will synergize with our +1/+1 strategy potentially for our Simic strat. And then Leatherhead Swamp Stalker enters with a hexproof counter on her. Whenever Leatherhead deals combat damage to a player, you may remove a counter from her. When you do, destroy target artifact enchantments a player controls. 4 mana, 5/4 trample with hexproof. And you can put a +1/+1 counter on it, remove it, and potentially get rid of an annoying artifact or enchantment that a player has in sealed. This might be a good sideboard strategy if you're running into somebody running the Izzet strat, essentially. So this is a potential maybe. Right now, off the bat, looking straight at +1/+1 counter synergies. These are the only 2. However, going to be able to fill in from there. Let's keep on trucking and head over to blue. Negate, fairly good card. Donatello Turtle Techie enters. If you control an artifact, draw a card. Maybe not what we want to see. Tap up to 1 target creature, put a stun counter on it. This one enters, you put a +1, or you create a mutagen token. So it's kind of in the same slot as Zoo Escapees. Fugitive Droid, Buzzbot. Flying when it dies, draw a card, so that's also a pretty decent card. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Another Crustacean Commando. Retro Mutation, so it's a little control. Donatello Turtle Techie. Then we have a enters, draw a card, then discard. Then Mind Transfer Protocol, which I also think is a pretty decent card for sealed. Until on the turn, target creature or creature you control becomes an artifact creature with base power 4/5, draw a card. For 3 mana, so we're seeing pretty low in terms of +1/+1 counter synergies, just off of those, unfortunately. However, let's take a look at these. We have a 4/5 Ward 3. Lessons from Life. Draw 3 cards. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Mikey and Don, Party Planners with the top card. You may play lands and cast mutant ninjas or turtle spells from the top of your library. If you cast a spell this way, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then we have a Slithering Cryptid. When it enters, create a mutagen token. So we have a decent number of ways of making mutagen tokens. Just here we have 4. I'm sorry. We have 4 ways to make mutagen tokens. So we have Mikey and Don that'll let you cast creatures and put additional +1/+1 counter on top of them, and then Michelangelo Game Master. Then Punk Frogs is just going to be a good card. It's going to be hard to remove with Ward 3, 4, 5 for 5 mana, so it'll probably be just splash top end. Let's check out our colorless cards. Everything Pizza. Don't think we're gonna get anywhere close to Warburg inside of this deck. And then Henchbots enters, exile target tapped creature and opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. So nothing crazy there, unfortunately. But this then allows us to look at potentially splashing into another color pair with adding black. Since we're not having a whole lot of luck building into this, Simic and the Demir strategies kind of have a nice synergy going, especially if we run these guac and marshmallows here. We'll have the disappear, with mutagen tokens, we'll have the disappear with foods. So we might be able to get an additional stack going there, on top of the fact we have something called Putrid Pals. Death Touch 3/3. This creature enters with 2+1/+1 counters on it if a permanent left the battlefield under your control. So this would be a great way to get rid of Mutagen Token and then cast this, then a 5/5 ETBs for 4 mana and Death Touch, which will also be pretty decent. So we'll probably just mesh these strategies now because we also have Disappear on Game Master. So this is something to keep an eye out for, see if there's a way to smash some synergies. And now we're just going to go through here, see if there's any mutagen potential or disappear potential to kind of mesh those strategies together. Stomped by the foot. I guess the best thing is probably to check for duplicates first, right? So we have Splinter here, which other ninjas you control get +1/+1, which unfortunately we don't have a whole lot of ninjas. So put that in the back burner for now. Anchovy Banana Pizza is a artifact destroy target creature for 4 mana, and you saw the food potential trigger. Foot Mystic, disappear when this creature enters a permanent left. You make a 1/1 black ninja. So that's a nice potential disappear strategy, but it is 4 mana. Then we have Time Exiles. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then draw X cards, lose X life, where X is the number of counters on this guy. So you have potential of stacking +1/+1 counters there. Squirreloids, just a 1/1 death toucher. Can't go wrong with that. Beaver. And then we have Foot Mystic again for disappear and our 2 splinters. So I think we're kind of entering the realm where we can kind of make something work here. Now that we know what we have to build around, let's talk about the ratios that you want to use inside of a pre-release kit, because that's kind of put our guiding light on the cards that we're building with. First off, a lot of people use a golden ratio of 23 to 17 lands. 17 lands, 23 non-lands. And in that 23, you're kind of aiming for 7 to 8 non-land permanents or non-creature permanents, and then 6 or 15 to 16 creatures. So with that in mind, let's try and get 15 to 16 creatures in front of us that we feel confident in building around this mutagen's disappear strategy. These are the 16 creatures that I am choosing to work. The reason why I am picking these creatures is because my goal is to be able to push into the higher realms of this deck pretty quickly. I'm going to pick my non-creature cards to kind of attune with that. So right now, in the lower end, I'm going with just some avoidance, death touch, things that they don't really want to block into, just for some potential quick sneaks in the future. So I am planning around that. So we have when this creature can't be blocked if another artifact entered this turn. So we plan around mutagen tokens with that. Squirreloids, it's a 1 mana, 1/1 death toucher, and they don't want to lose a good creature to a death toucher, so they might let that sneak through. And then Dream Beavers here is just like a flyer. You lose, you could scry 1 on top of that for 1 mana, and it's definitely something you want to sneak in because when it enters, each opponent loses 1 life, I gain a life, and scry. So it's beneficial for me to recast that card. So it's definitely a good potential sneak. Then in the 2 mana slot here, we're going with Flying Vigilance, dies, draw a card. So like they'll see this as the fact that I want this card to die. So they won't block it necessarily because it's a 1/1, gives us another opportunity to sneak. Then we go Frog Butler for some additional mana, and it's also a death toucher, something again, don't want to lose the creature to a 1/1. And then the Zoo Escapees and the Crustacean Commandos gives us access to those mutation tokens to really buff things up, to really potentially force them to block something with our creatures that they don't really want to block in the future, or to really pump into another realm for some disappear setups, stuff like that. Then Michelangelo Game Master for our Disappear +1/+1 strategy. Slithering Cryptic gives us more mutagen tokens, and it's a 2/3. And then Saki Shredder Rising, when it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, lose a life. Another sneak situation for 2 mana, which is pretty good. A little card advantage. We got something going up here, so pay attention. Lessons from Life. Draw 3 cards. You may put a land card from your hand on the battlefield. A little acceleration. Mikey gets his top card advantage for 4 mana, 3/3, and has War 2 built in, so we can cast things off the top of our decks. And then Putrid Pals also has some disappear functionality with everything that we have going on. Time Exile, constantly growing, constantly giving us cards. So this becomes a more and more threat that they're going to want to remove. And then Shredder is just going to be a 6/7 unless it's drop things off their exile for free whenever something leaves the battlefield. And got a lot of mutagen possibility here. Plus we'll put in some food and stuff like that to really accelerate this potential disappear mutagen situation. So now we're going to go into the non-creature portion of this, and then I'm aiming for 7 cards there. And the goal with those are going to be kind of like walking pizza here. Combat Tricks. It has Flash, 1 mana, it gets +2/+2. So one of the creatures they didn't really want to block, all of a sudden is 3 damage instead of 1, and they're kind of like regretting it, putting them on edge. So we're going with those 2. Then, on top of it, there's some good green cards that we opened. So like Michelangelo's Technique that lists us at the top 8 cards of your library in a 40-card deck. That's a really good chunk. And 6 mana value or less from among them onto the battlefield and on the bottom. Which means if we're hitting Kang at turn 4 with sneak cost, we're getting some pretty decent value coming out of the board. And first off, hitting for a 6/7 because it comes in tapped and attacking when it sneaks. On top of that, when this enters or attacks, each opponent exiles top cards from their library. Combo that up with potentially something leaving at the end step. Since we snuck it in, something has to come back, so technically it'll trigger disappear, and we get a free cast from that. So that's a pretty good potential combo piece there. Plus, it gives us chop 8, so we can grab anything else in this pile that we might need for 4 mana. Thinking about putting in this to rush in some basic lands. Don't think we'll need that for 3 mana. That seems a little iffy. If the deck feels slow in turn or game 2, we might be able to do a swap. So this could be a sideboard option situation. Not necessarily. And then Courier lets us tutor for a food card and reveal it. So if we're desperate for something, that's a possibility, but it's also a creature. So keep that on the side. Cowabunga gives us top 4. Reveal a mutant, turtle, or land from among them, and put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom. So this gives us a little additional quick advantage on top of that to hopefully find something that we need in here to push us forward. Like, for example, we have a mutant soldier, Zooski Bees, to get us on that path that we need. So that's a decent possibility as well. This is something that could save, so we'll use this as a flex slot. So Cowabunga is a good card to push if we feel like we need to go faster. Well, Saved by the Shell, we'll put a +1/+1 counter and give it indestructible and hexproof until end of turn to save something bigger like Krang here. It's technically not a turtle, so it would cost 2, but if we have a turtle out, we can use that to protect it for 1 mana. So we can use that as a flex slot there between the two. If you want to play on the safer side, keep the protection in. If you want to go fast, swap in with Cowabunga. And that will be it from that side. After that, we want some removal and control, right? To stop our player or our opponent from doing anything. Good opportunity there would be potentially retro mutation, 0/1, and loses all abilities. So you could have this ready to swap in turn 2 or game 2 if there's creatures that they're playing that are doing a lot and giving them a lot of advantage with their abilities. I wouldn't put that main deck because I generally just want straight up removal main deck when it comes to this type of thing. Let's see what we have here. I guess this is going to be one of our best 2 mana, instant speed, sacrifice an artifact or a creature, -5/-5 until end of turn, or -2/-2 on end of turn if you don't kick it. That's for straight up removal, it looks like, unfortunately. Is that it? It is it. Ooh, okay. That's unfortunate. Um, Genuinely would like a little bit more removal than that, which we unfortunately don't have. We could toss in a negate for some control just to stop something from hitting forward. But 9 times out of 10 inside of this format, creatures are the biggest scare that you have to worry about. So I don't know if I would want negate main board. If I face against somebody that is it, maybe we'll swap it in, but maybe I'll do a retro mutation in that slot instead. Unfortunately, I think we're just gonna run Awabunga in that slot. I think we don't have too much removal, unfortunately. So I think the 7 cards will be forced into this kind of this situation. So either we're gonna go fast and push through, or we're not, which is kind of hit or miss. Not necessarily the situation you want to be in. Definitely would like some more removal, but sometimes it's just how the cookie crumbles in situations like this, and we just gotta roll with it, right? Yeah. I guess the other option would be pushing New Generations Technique and Cowabunga if you want to, look for creatures, or grabbing more lands to hopefully push this in. Really your choice there. The benefit with Cowabunga is you can grab a land if you don't see anything you want from your creatures, so at least keep something in your hand. So I think I would do this 7 here and really push with my creatures, mutagen, build some big board states, and swing, just be generally aggressive with this type of deck. And then the final portion of this is setting up our mana base. Go through your cards that you open. Sometimes you get lucky and you have a dual colored land that fits inside of your colors. In this case, it does not look like we have that. However, we do have an escape tunnel, which allows us to search our library for a basic and put it on the battlefield tap, so we can go find color fixing. So if we're missing black, we can go grab black, or we can sacrifice the land. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked, and that kind of works with our sneak strategy that we got going on here as a sub theme. So we can run an escape tunnel. Northampton Farm. Exile target creature you own. Okay. Sacrifice this land, return target creature exiled with this land to the battlefield, return each other card exiled with this card to its owner's hand. Okay, so this is a nice way to save things, so you can stock them up and return things to your hand. Don't think we'll run it inside of this deck, especially because it taps for colorless, so that really puts you in a bind. Looks like we have 2 escape tunnels, so I wouldn't run more than that. 2 escape tunnels, and then just we had 17 lands, we're down 15, 5 and 5 from there. We're pretty split in terms of color pips here. It's not really one that's leaning one way or another. We're definitely green dominant, it seems like. But a lot of the green cards are 1 pipped versus the black cards have 2 pips. So blue, black have 2 pip situations, which is great. So I think I just do 5 and 5. Plus you have the 2 escape tunnels, so you can search it out. And then you have your advantage with search from there. This is the deck I would build. These are the tips that I have for building your first pre-release deck. And getting ready for Turtles this weekend. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments down below. Happy to help. And from there, I hope you guys have a lot of fun this weekend and kick some butt with Turtles. Catch you in the next one.